In Meghan's new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, there are signs that things aren't what they seem, that the image Meghan and Harry want people to have of them doesn't correspond to reality. What are the signs, and what new information do they give us about Meghan's mindset and personality? Welcome back to the channel. Time to get the party started.
Behind the scenes, there are so many struggles that female founders don't post about. They don't even talk about the moments when you feel broken, when things don't go as planned, when simply showing up feels like a huge feat. And yet we do it. We push through. We keep smiling. We keep going out there. You get on the panel. You do the thing. And at a certain point, though, it does raise the question, how do we redefine what it means to be a female founder without just running ourselves into the ground?
That didn't sound overly dramatic at all. We're off to a genuine start. Meghan has a history of masking the image problems she has as general problems, like this.
Oftentimes as women, you may agree with this, the way that we see ourselves is reflected back to us, sometimes accurately and sometimes, much to our disservice, inaccurately in what we see in media.
Meghan uses groupthink-based rhetoric for self-serving reasons. What she really wants is for people to stop criticizing her, but she disguises that as caring for the demographic she gets paid to say she advocates for. We, she says, not I.
As if you're reading something terrible about a woman, why are you sharing it with your friends?
In relation to this, it isn't true that actual entrepreneurs don't talk about their struggles. They do, a lot. So it sounds more like Meghan needs them to not talk about their struggles in order for her narrative to work, to make it look like they're in the same boat as her and want to redefine things too, whatever that self-important term is supposed to mean. Thus, when we decode Meghan's linguistic tactics, it sounds more like she's the one who's exhausted. If you're happy with the way things are, there's no reason to redefine anything. Also, there's the inevitable self-aggrandizement. Meghan herself sounds like a fighter who overcomes all struggles. However, there are no struggles. By marrying into one of the wealthiest families in the world, she's never had to build anything from scratch, and there are no risks involved. Smiling and going on a panel don't qualify as work. It's telling that she brings up smiling as if it's something she has to do, even when she might not feel like it. First of all, it explains why her smiles seem contrived and overdone, because they aren't real. Secondly, it explains why she's able to pretend to be happy in interviews, but criticize them afterwards.
And
it's beautiful. And he designed it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And
make sure it stays on that finger.
Of course.
Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, thank you both very much.
Thank you so much.
In your engagement interview,
orchestrated reality show. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thirdly, it explains why she's able to go from happy to angry in a split second.
For us, it's an opportunity to really get to know each other without other people, looking or trying to take photos on their phones and all that kind of stuff. With that comes with the job, comes with the role. But
If smiling is work, Meghan's not doing a good job, and now we know why. Because smiling is a chore, something she does irrespective of how she feels. Everything Meghan's been involved in has been criticized, and rightfully so. That's because she doesn't make content for other people's sake, for other people's enjoyment. She makes content for perceived self-benefit, damage control. The failed podcast archetypes, the so-called documentary and cooking show, are all self-centered rebranding attempts with little to no value for anyone. Thus, all in all, Meghan isn't a founder, even though that doesn't stop her from branding herself as one. However, just because you're able to speak as if you're in the same league as successful entrepreneurs, it doesn't mean that you are. You can't negotiate with reality. Next, she makes a revealing comment regarding her business tactics.
But in those conversations, if you go to someone and you ask for money, they're likely going to give you advice. And if you go to someone and you ask for advice, they're much more likely to give you money.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm taking that one to the bank.
Just go for advice. Because otherwise people aren't immediately feeling pressurized. You're just going for advice. And then if it makes sense for them, they'll offer up what they think you might need as opposed to going in with an ask. So different. Small distinction, but it makes a big difference, I think.
I really like that.
In other words, go for people's money by pretending that you want their advice. These are the words of someone who isn't interested in other people's advice, and it shows.
You could do this with one small row for your kids for breakfast, genuinely, and it makes the morning a lot more fun. We could do a little dollop of yogurt as our clouds. Flour sprinkles, if we must.
If someone's in a bad mood, something tells me that making clouds of yogurt won't suddenly make them happy. But this is the level of abstraction we're dealing with here. Meghan says pressurized as if it's positive. Never mind, it's a synonym to verbs like coerce and intimidate. People, no matter what their title is, should only be given money and contracts if they're actually talented and have something to offer. The product or idea should speak for itself. It shouldn't be about making people feel pressurized. The latter will result in uninspiring, meaningless content.
Oh gosh, isn't that whole
And then she sent me an email saying, I know you said you're single and a friend of mine asked about you and maybe you'd like to meet him. And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that?
Next, Meghan and her guests talk about the necessity of letting go of power.
That is a lot of, I'm not going to say work. I'm talking about self-work. That is a lot of growth that takes people a tremendous amount of time to settle into the confidence to be able to do that and to not feel rattled when the phone's not ringing, to not feel rattled when you've stepped out of the light, so to speak. But as you step out of the light, you're actually stepping into your own light in a different way and creating space for someone else to be in the light, which is probably the larger purpose of all of us being here.
That's so beautiful. So true.
That's a lot of talk about light. But of course, it's beautiful and so true. This excerpt shows that Meghan's seemingly proficient at talking like the real thing, like an actual entrepreneur who's had years of success. But looking at her situation specifically, how and when has she stepped out of the light to step into her own light, to let someone else step into the light? I can't believe I just said that. She's in the light of everything she does as the constant center of attention. The reason why she hasn't been successful is because you can't pressurize your way to people's approval. People decide what they like and don't like. That was the pretentious part of their letting go of power discussion. Next, we get the overly dramatic part.
And I'll bring this up if you're comfortable talking about it, because I know you've spoken publicly about, as you were doing Girls Who Code, all the interpersonal things that are happening for you at that time, and the miscarriages that you've experienced. I've spoken about the miscarriage that we experienced.
Yeah.
And I think in some parallel way, when you have to learn to detach from the thing that you have so much promise and hope for, and to be able to be okay at a certain point to let something go that you plan to love for a long time.
That's really insight. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you're like reading my diaries. Like that's really it's really insightful.
Talk about a needlessly dramatic parallel in order to play on people's emotions, in order to make them empathize with you. But it's still really insightful, of course. Meghan's animated series Pearl was cancelled, and her book got negative reviews, to put it mildly. Detaching from things like these, things that are irrelevant on their own merits and irrelevant to the world, isn't the same as detaching from a human life in any way, shape or form. So drawing the parallel speaks volumes about Meghan's priorities. Meghan speaks as if she's had to make huge sacrifices, as if she's been a walking success, when the exact opposite is true. Next, notice the immaturity in Meghan's way of thinking.
Couple months just to breathe.
Mm-hmm. that takes so much courage to say it. What is that book? I actually think I have it here. My friend just sent me this passage yesterday. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's a children's book that came out of the UK a couple of years ago. But at any rate, beautiful illustrations. I have to get it for you. But the quote is, "What is the bravest thing you've ever said?" asked the boy. "Help," said the horse. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, you go, the courage that it takes for a female founder, the courage that it takes for a woman, when you're on this path, you're on this grind, you've set expectations, the courage that it takes to say, I need help or I need to pause is tremendous.
No, Meghan only wants that to sound courageous because it's what she does regularly. But again, she uses groupthink-based rhetoric to disguise that, as if she's speaking about and for all women. Deceptively, she made it sound brave when she influenced Prince Harry to leave his family.
You know, you heard Meghan share with us all the moment that she came to you, had the courage enough to say out loud.
I had no idea what to do. I wasn't prepared for that. I went to a very dark place as well. But I wanted to be there for her.
And also, we didn't leave right terrified. In that moment, right?
Meghan lives in a fantasy of what she's accomplished. She lives in a fantasy where everyone loves her. In that sense, it's telling that her frame of reference is a book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. This frame of reference exposes the level of immaturity of someone who doesn't want to look at herself and her abilities, or lack thereof, realistically, and be held accountable for her decisions. In her interview with Oprah, her frame of reference is The Little Mermaid. She claims that she also lost her voice, as if that could ever happen, but that she got her voice back in the end. When she left Harry's family, that is. Meghan reflected her royal life in something fictional.
You know, unlike what you see in the movies, there's no class on how to speak, how to cross your legs.
Thus, it's no wonder she was disappointed, because nothing could ever meet her expectations, and she didn't want her expectations to be met. She still reflects her decisions and entire image in something fictional and literally childish, same as when she talks about her perceived legacy.
Yes, and everything has some expense, right? But when you're looking, what's the ROI? What is your return on the investment of everything you're pouring into that? And at the end of the day, what you're doing is creating legacy that will, whether you see those changes in your lifetime or our kids' lifetime, it still steps in the right direction of what legacy is all about. And that, I think, is one of the most fascinating, probably most powerful things about the journey of creation as a female founder. You're creating something with lasting impact.
No matter how many times Meghan uses the overused buzzword journey, a word that only honest and authentic people use.
I had to talk about my journey, this whole journey.
An excerpt like this exposes the immature mindset, inflated sense of self-importance, and complete lack of self-awareness that govern Meghan's actions and decisions. Because what legacy is she talking about? What lasting impact? It's as if she's talking about a completely different person, which she is, because she's talking about the image she wants people to have of her, not the image she has or ever will have.
What is the bravest thing you've ever said? asked the boy. Help, said the horse.
I like how she sets this up as a jaw-dropping moment, with a dramatic pause and all, while talking about a children's book. And speaking of being dramatic, Meghan uses effective prosody, manipulating her voice to convey emotion via vowel stresses and vowel lengthenings, for instance.
And at a certain point, you go, the courage that it takes for a female founder, the courage that it takes for a woman, when you're on this path, you're on this grind, you've set expectations.
Speakers often use effective prosody to compensate for their lack of actual arguments, and also, notably, to make what they say sound objectively true, so as to prevent disagreement from the other speaker.
And there is no way to continue to show up and role model for these young women all the things that you aspire for them to have, that you wanted to have when you were a young girl, if you are not doing it with complete authenticity because you are so close to being burned out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like how Meghan snuck in a little ad for her hard work. The self-branding is non-stop. Who asked her to be a role model for anybody? How? Why? And what does she mean by authenticity? So when you get paid by a company to advertise for their brand, you're an authentic role model.
When Dove reached out to me, it was so, as I was saying to you, it's just so easy for me to jump on board with this because their whole campaign right now for self-esteem is inspiring confidence in young women. And I think it's timely right now, the conversation of feminism and women feeling empowered, but to plant those seeds starting really young. And so, last night we had a workshop so that young girls can really maximize their potential. And it feels organic and right.
Does engaging in a staged and rehearsed interaction make you an authentic role model?
Like Emily, who's right here. I only know her through Twitter, and I knew she was coming because I saw it on social media.
Stop it, really?
Yes, and she's going on a trip soon to Costa Rica to do some aid work because she said that my UN stuff inspired her. I wrote you a letter. I brought it.
Okay, that is amazing.
Finally meet you. It's so great to meet you.
I must say, UN stuff just sounds so deep and specific, and Meghan totally couldn't have said all of this when the cameras weren't rolling. She's a role model as long as it benefits her financially and image-wise. So much for authenticity, a word that Meghan overuses in her self-branding, as if she knows she can't show she's authentic, so she has to say it.
It's about being authentic, and so I just spoke from the heart, and that's probably why it doesn't look polished, and that's why it doesn't feel perfect, but that's also why it's authentic. Yes, now you have the title of mom, just like me. Favorite title, love it. I love being a mom. Oh my gosh, I love being a mom so much. It's my favorite thing. It is the thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I just need a break. I just need a minute. I just need a minute. And the second that you step in the other room, you go, oh, but
where are they?
Okay. Let me scroll through pictures of them endlessly on my phone. And then my husband's like, my love, can you just give yourself a minute? Why don't you go work out? Why don't you go take a bath? I'm like, I know, but I just want to cuddle it's the parenting paradigm where it is so full on, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I think what's really key about what you said, and the pandemic may have been the thing that shifted this, when working from home and parenting from home, where they are completely converged, can feel incredibly overwhelming.
Once again, Meghan indicates that she finds working from home stressful, even though it's a luxury that most people don't have and can't afford. And that's without mentioning preschool.
She gets picked up early and she naps, and she only has a half day in preschool.
The function of the conjunction but is to minimize and negate that which preceded it. Syntactically then, she highlights the part about parenting being overwhelming, even with preschool and Harry in the picture, and minimizes and negates the first part where she unreliably exaggerates how much she allegedly loves it. Thus, in her attempts to brand herself as a great parent, she unintentionally reveals 3 things. 1, that it doesn't take much for her to feel overwhelmed, which we learned from the Oprah interview.
Nobody prepares you.
But even down to like the national anthem. No one thought to say, oh, you're American. You're not going to know that. That's me late at night Googling.
2, that the converging, as she calls it, poses real problems for her. And 3, that she wouldn't last a month in an actual company with an actual full-time job that isn't about promoting herself.
And also, with that comes the woman who is juggling it all and doing it all from home, being confident enough to tell the truth about what's going on. People say, no, just be honest in the journey of it.
Is this a conversation or a competition to see how many times Meghan can say journey? This is the exact reason why Meghan's listing personal details, to make listeners, whoever they are, think that she's that mom. They're supposed to believe that she's telling the truth, that she's the one who's confident and is able to juggle it all. There's nothing like having to instruct people what to think about you, kind of like this.
What has been echoed so much really in the past day by men and women alike is, oh, we weren't surprised when we found out when you were a Nigerian. Oh, no. And I say that mostly as a compliment to all of you, because what they define as a Nigerian woman is brave, resilient, courageous, powerful, beautiful.
So was Meghan actually complimenting the people in the room? No, because of the preface.
Oh, we weren't surprised when we found out when you were Nigerian.
Meghan attributes these positive characteristics to herself first and foremost. Meghan sings her own praises, which speaks to personality, and not in a good way.
Just be honest in the journey of it
100%.
and say, yeah, today I'm going to show up for you, but I'm showing up for you in my sweatshirt today because I've been up all night with my babies. But I'm still going to be able to show up for both because both matter and both are what keep my cup full.
Yes, 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 yes.
Stunning and brave, I must say. This podcast is just so revolutionary. Her guest sounds great too.
And sometimes just when you think you're about to win, oh, man, did that hurt, because that feels like quite a loss. But you just keep going.
Meghan knows quite a bit about losses. However, she says you, not I, as if this is a general experience and not just her experience. Meghan's too busy branding herself as a fighter to consider the most important question. Why? Why keep making self-promotional content no one wants to see? Time and time again, she proves that she's incapable of making interesting and relevant content. Many other people are capable, but don't have the money and title to make deals with disingenuous platforms like Netflix. When someone has self-serving motivations for doing something, be it a podcast, a book, or a cooking show, and couldn't care less about what audiences want, failure ensues.
And see the commonality in some of these other equally successful women that I'm speaking with. What's behind every successful woman is self-awareness. There comes a point where each of these women on their journeys has such a tremendous sense of self-awareness and the desire to dig deeper that is unflappable.
I think that's right.
Journey. What self-awareness is she talking about? Meghan doesn't have self-awareness because she actually believes that people trust her performative self, believe her pretentious phrases, and sympathize with the blatant self-aggrandizement. Meghan's in love with her perceived image, forever failing to realize how contrived and deceptive it comes across. What's your favorite moment from this heartwarming podcast? Let us know in the comments. Have fun on your journey. I hope you find it empowering. I'll be back soon with another inclusive video.